Welcome to Queer Conversations. I'm your host G of Very G TV, and I'm here every Tuesday, 6 p.m. EST, sharing stories from the queer and allied community. My guest today is CarolAnnes McFarlane.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. CarolAnnes is an artist in the community here in Fort Lauderdale and also throughout the country, right?
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about starting off with how did you become an artist? Or do you want to share?
Oh, yeah.
Let me let you share. Yes. Hey, Instagram, we're live here. Thanks for joining us, Queer Conversations. We're going to be with CarolAnnes McFarlane. Oh, CarolAnnes McFarlane is watching. Good. So, yeah, thanks for joining us. Please share this conversation. Please join in our conversation. Please ask questions and be a part of this queer conversation. So, you're an artist. How did you become an artist?
That goes back really far. So back to like preschool.
Oh, preschool. Yeah, that's far.
Yeah. So we were doing like basic, cut and paste, putting stuff together, work and making pictures or what have you. And then they had a show.
Okay.
And what I saw that when we had a show was like, okay, here's a whole family event now that we're all going to go see this work because of what I made. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was like my very first impression. Another time in kindergarten, I did a picture. We were all drawing pictures in the library, and the kindergarten teacher, Miss Hammer, she saw it, and she's like, okay, I'm going to enter this in the Broward County Fair.
Wow.
And so here's another time where my art was like being recognized and shown, and then we as a family went to the Broward County Fair the first time ever just because of my artwork. And I'm like, art can make people do things.
Okay.
And so that was like the underlying foundation. And ever since then, it's like, okay, art is a catalyst for change. And I want to create art that creates change in the world. So going to the Broward County Fair became a family tradition for a number of years.
I love this.
Because it coincided with the same month as on my birthday, and so it was a birthday thing, and it was also a family thing. So this one drawing that I did created value for my family for several years.
Wow, look at that. Yes. Carice, thanks for joining. And David Muir, hello everyone. Yes, so I love that. I've known you for many, many years, and I didn't know that story. So that's one of the great things about the show is that we get to learn more about people and some people that we know. So how do you go from, so you're a preschooler, you're in kindergarten, and your work is being shown. How do you go from that, and how do you keep it consistent as an adult now? Because I met you as an artist in an art gallery, right? As an adult, right? So how did that happen?
There was like several series of events that said, yes, you're meant to be an artist. Like in 8th grade, I made a piece that was put into a competition, and that piece was actually flown. It was like 1 out of 300 people who were chosen.
Wow!
And that piece went to New York to go show, and I'm like, okay, I got work going to New York.
What? Okay.
Before I've even gone to New York, so there have been several things that have happened throughout that. Like there's things that happened in high school, in college. I was in art school, and I was selected for the Alcott Scholarship, which was given to the one person in each major, and it gave to the person with the highest GPA in that major. And so it was a mostly all expenses, most expenses paid trip to New York to go and travel and meet different artists and galleries and spaces and stuff like that. So,
great work.
Yeah.
Great experience. You have someone here, Erica Williams, saying, "Hey, Carol." Hey, yes. So I love this. You've been a lifetime artist, and you're still pretty young.
Yeah.
And now I know you do a lot of shows in New York City, and there was a magazine that recently featured you as top 10, one of the top 10 artists in New York City. How did that come into being?
I was in a show in New York. I show in New York often. The last show I was in New York was in July at Robert Miller Gallery.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats.
It was called Eminent Domain.
Okay, nice.
And the curator for the show reached out to me the first of the year, and she said, I'm going to be doing an article about some of the artists that were in the show.
Nice.
And can you send me your stuff? And I'm like, okay. okay. So I gave her my information, and then like that Friday it came out, and I didn't know what the article was going to be. It says top 10 NYC artists now. So Art 11 magazine. Shout out to Katie.
Yes, shout out. I love that. I love that.
And so that article came out, and I was excited about that. And there was like 90 artists in that show. So
wow.
here again.
Right. So yeah. So what kind of work? Do you have a message in your art, a style of your art? Like, what kind of art are you doing?
See, that's a question that like people always ask me, and my message is about change, personal change, and I believe that personal change starts with education. Okay. Whether it's first like knowing yourself or getting external resources to inform you about where we are in our world, why we exist here in this, social political climate that we're in, and how can we then dismantle it and create a world and a future that we want to see and live in.
That's phenomenal.
Thank you.
I love that description of your work. I love that. So you, well, let me ask you this. So this is Queer Qonversations, and we generally share the stories of the LGBTQ, which is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and ally community. And I usually ask my guests how they identify. So, how do you identify?
Boring.
Boring. Okay. Well, I was going to say B, but B is bisexual, so let me not confuse that. So boring. What I want to ask you. So, Thou Art Woman, right? This is an event that I've been a part of producing, one of the co-founders, and it's been a big part of my life since 2014. It's an event celebrating LGBTQ women and allies. And we start off as an open mic night, and now we're having our own art show. We're actually having a 3-day weekend. So in March coming up. So you have come to pretty much all of these events, right? These are events that are mostly lesbian, bisexual, queer women who love women. I want to ask, what brings you there and so consistently?
Well, part of what I believe like every person should do is at least like sit back and listen to other people's stories, other people's experience. So the first time I was like, okay, this is something different. And then I sat down and I was like, yo, these people are talking about stuff that I've never experienced, or they're talking about something that's coming from inside of them, and like they're sharing their work, their art, their life in a way that is very appealing and personal. And I'm like, oh, I'm invited here. I'm invited to be in this space. And not only that, to see all the people that's there, their personally like creativity, like you see all self-expression before you even see their their name. You see like, okay, they put their hair in a certain way or a color combination. I'm like, I've never thought to do that, but you're doing it and it looks good and I like seeing it. So I'm like, okay, so that was part of it. And then like hearing and seeing all these stories and being a part of the community, and then just like, okay, like there's so much more around us than what we see like in our everyday.
So would you identify as an ally?
Yeah, absolutely.
As an ally, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And you're somebody we've done 10 Thou Art Women events, and I know the only one you missed, you were so ripped up and torn about missing it. Yeah. But you're somebody who, you're always like, when's the next one?
Yes.
Like, and I have a bunch of people, but you're one of the top people. And if I create the event, and I haven't said I'm coming to my own event, you invite me.
Yes.
So you tend to get that where you're like, I'm like, oh, I've been invited to let me say I'm going, which I absolutely love. Hey, we're getting a lot of hellos. Thank you. Janelle, Sherry, thank you so much for joining us here with Artist Carol-Anne McFarlane. So I love that. I love your energy. I love that you enjoy the Art Woman and support that to that extent. And I remember a few years back. So I'm gender nonconforming. I identify as a woman, as a lesbian, and I'm gender nonconforming. And I started openly dressing this way, like very masculine, a few years ago. And I remember that you started with like being really excited about my style and how I dress. And then one day we did this shoot where you came over to my home and went into my closet, right? And you picked up and dressed in all these different. What was it for you that drew you to, like, first of all, being excited about the way I'm dressing, and presenting, and for you to want to do it yourself?
Well, what I saw was like, okay, here's a person expressing themselves and like not caring what everybody else thinks. Like, this is how I want to dress, and I was like, oh, look, she's dressing like this and looks good. Like, I want to see, I want to know what does she do next. Like, you know, wanting to put what outfits, which colors did she do, what patterns she's putting together, and it was about that. And then like the other part of it was like, here is a person, here's a woman who comes from, you know, the same background.
Right, we're Jamaican, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Same background as me, looking at the world different, you know, maybe a few years ahead and then having different experiences. But like, you're looking at the same environment and climate that we're in and saying, this is how I'm going to attain my power.
Right.
This is how I'm going to do this.
I love when you say that, how I'm going to attain my power.
Yes.
Right. Because I was really just like, I want to dress really comfortable the way that I feel I should. But attaining my power sounds great. I like that. Yes. CarolAnne is one of the most generous to other artists person I know. That's great. So that's Nolan saying that. Wonderful.
Yeah, he doesn't live too far from here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, so then now you're going to be... Well, you participated in the most recent Thou Art Woman in March. You shared a poem.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That was your first time, like, stepping to the stage.
Yeah.
And then now you're going to be part of the art exhibit, which is going to be Friday, March 1st. It's around the corner.
Yeah.
It's called At the Edge, and it's going to be at the 1310 Gallery. We have the link that we'll share, and we really want as many people can come join us for that event the whole weekend. And what was it that when you saw the call that you felt that you want to be part of the show? Because you're the part of a lot of shows, right? And this is a show LGBTQ woman, primarily. What was it that drew you to being in the show?
Well, like I said in the beginning, like, I come to these events and I look and I hear and I learn and I see all these different people, and I'm like, okay, I'm always here and I'm always sitting down, like, basically consuming.
Right.
You know,
okay.
And understanding that, and then during the last show in March, as we were leading up to it, again, you know, still being very excited. That same week, one of my friends had committed suicide, and I was like, okay, well, like, where can I go to talk about this? And Thou Art Woman was the only place that I could go and say, okay, here's what happened to me. Here's me, like I can go and get on the stage and like be able to talk to all these people and know that I would be received and just like heard, and be able to say, okay, this is what I went through, even though she committed this act and it's affected me. This is how it's affected me, and then like being able to see people come back and respond and be being positive about that. So the other part of it was like, okay, yes, I understand the parameters of this show, but I was like, I'm already a part of this community.
You are.
You know, I've been here, I've listened, I've participated, supported. So I felt like, okay, well, what can I do now to give? And how can I make an interactive piece that somebody can like interact with and give them the opportunity to create something?
Well, first, condolences regarding your friend.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And thank you for sharing with us that day. And it was challenging, but that's one of the things that makes the Art Woman so special, is that we've always had a space during the open mic segment where we let people share. And some things are going to be painful, some things are going to be funny, some things are going to be serious, some people are going to be coming out stories, some things are going to be sexy. Like, it just has that space, and that's one thing that I think people treasure about it. Is that it is that space where you're like, no one's judging anybody.
Right.
There's no competition. There's no, oh my gosh, why is she doing this? What is she? Everybody can be exactly who they are. It can be authentic. So I really love that you could come there and share that and see it as that space. Okay, David Muir says, I think CarolAnne is a super amazing person who's living her truth. Amazing. I agree. She definitely is. Yes, I love that you're doing that. And I think especially as Jamaican American, coming from a community that wasn't like as accepting as of this community, that you're in it like, hey, I'm in this community. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So that means a lot. And speaking of Jamaica, I know that you were in the Jamaica, is it called
Biennial?
Biennial. What's that?
2017. So biennials are shows that are once every 2 years, and depending on the area where they show, they're talking about art of that area, or they're looking for artists to represent. For example, the Venice Biennale.
Say it again?
Venice Biennale.
Okay.
Different artists go there to represent their country. So you have an artist from America that shows there, and they'll represent America for that year. So in Jamaica, the biennial is a big show talking about, it was all about Jamaican artists and Jamaican artists that are in the diaspora. And biennial is basically saying this is the current work that we're creating now. So within the last 2 years, this is what Jamaican artists are producing. And so I had a video work in there, my very first video work. And interesting is about that was I submitted the work to be shown at a local venue down here.
In Fort Lauderdale?
Yes. And they rejected it, but then it was accepted internationally.
Well, isn't that something how that happens? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I went down to Jamaica for the biennial. It was fun.
And how is it for you as a Jamaican being, because you've been in the United States more than you've been in Jamaica, right? How is that for you? How are you received by the community? Do you feel connected? Do you feel like...
I want to be connected, and I know I'm not.
Okay.
Because I know it's different.
Were there other Jamaicans outside of Jamaica there?
Yes,
from outside of Jamaica?
Yes,
and how do you feel? Do you feel more connected to those folks in that way?
One of them that I know that I saw down there as a collector up here in Miami, and I saw her, and I was like, hey, we've already touch base and talk all the time, and so it was like, hey, oh look, we're just happen to be in another country this time.
Great.
And then the other one was an artist I had met recently, but I didn't have a whole lot. She lives in New York. I didn't have a big connection with her at the time either, but it wasn't. And I saw another artist. I think he's based in Jamaica there too. Same name as my brother.
Okay, and you're saying you want to be more connected.
Yeah, I would like to be. Yeah, I would like to be.
Right, that makes sense. Yes. Hey, Nikki Lopez, who's also going to be in the show. Thanks for joining us at the Edge exhibit on March 1st. And I saw, and you talked a little bit, we had an opportunity to be at the NSU Art Museum, Fort Lauderdale. Thank you, NSU.
Yes.
And thanks for being a part of the program. And you shared a little bit about the piece, and we don't want to give it all away, but a sense of what people can expect from your piece. You want to talk a little bit about it?
Which part do you want?
Well, meaning just I guess that's the point, is that there is something that it's interactive.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's definitely interactive, and I made something that either the beginning of the night, the end of the night, whenever you come, you get to actually take a part of the piece home with you.
Okay, which I love, which is great to have that. So there's going to be artwork that people can enjoy by seeing it. So people are going to want to buy art and take it with them. And some people are going to want to do this interactive piece and take that with them, and that's great. We're also, I should mention, we're also going to have Emily Sheila performing that evening. It's going to be really beautiful. And I should also share that the open mic portion, we started off where you were there, where we selected the people right there. And then as it's grown, we've had to actually ask people to tell us ahead of time. And now we're going to be in the Broward Center for the Performing Arts. So can you imagine?
big.
I know, big and bossy. So now we have, we're asking people to apply ahead of time. And we started doing that a couple shows ago. It's not just now, but we've been having to do some pre-production. So we're asking people, if you're interested in being in the open mic segment of the show, which is going to be the Saturday, March 2nd, there is a form, and I'm going to ask, we have our assistant here. Is that an okay title, sir? Putting in the links for us so that you can apply on this form. The deadline is February 1st, which is Friday. So if you want to do a poem, song, music, comedy, anything, dance to be considered, then you need to fill out this form by this Friday. And then we're still gonna pick up a couple people from the audience, because that's such a significant part of it. So someone is gonna get moved. I feel goosebumps as I say it. Someone's gonna get moved to perform. Or you have some comments over here. We'll take a look here. Cold-hearted. Carol. She says CarolAnne has always never judged and always embraced everyone. Love her. And she says, get it, girl. Don't ever stop. Yes. So that's great. Thanks for joining us over here on IG as well. So So yeah, so I was saying we're still going to pick people from the audience, and I just think it's going to be incredible because now we're going to be in a pretty large theater, and so it's going to be someone very bold. I think everybody to the stage is bold, right? And wherever we are, even when we're in the gallery, everywhere we are, there is some courage to come up to the front and share, especially sharing. People are sharing things pretty personal.
Yeah.
So that person or those people who are going to come and share that, I just like bless them. I think it's going to be really, just really beautiful. So I'm excited about that. Yeah. So okay, thank you, David Muir, my sexy exy there, putting it in. I appreciate it. Okay, and there's it at the edge. So yeah, and spread the word. It's going to be really exciting. And for people who are watching outside of Florida, you can come in. It's a 3-day weekend, and we have the Host Hotel Riverside. So join us from wherever you are.
It's gonna be lit.
It's gonna be so exciting. I'm really excited. We have 14 artists. I'm not gonna attempt to name everybody right now, but we're gonna do a more formal announcement. We did an announcement at NSU, but meaning an announcement on Facebook. We're gonna post a graphic that has everybody who's part of the show, and we're just really excited about that. Yeah. Please, we have a few minutes left. If anybody has any questions of CarolAnne, because I've been having all the questions. If anybody else has questions or any more comments, please dive in. David, any questions over there?
I always have questions.
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear it, because we do have more time that we can ask CarolAnne more questions.
Well, listen, there's a lot of things I would love to ask CarolAnne, but I'm going to keep it in the art realm to start.
Please, in the art realm, thank you.
So, I want to know a little bit more about how do you develop your strategy in terms of how you share your artwork? Where do you choose to either accept your work to be shown, or where is it that you are looking to be shown that you haven't yet sort of figured out how you're going to get in that space so that you can sort of get that next elevation for your work to be seen and to be exposed?
So I'm just going to, for people who maybe, I don't think can hear it clearly. So pretty much you're asking like, what is their strategy in terms of showing her work, where she wants to show her work, right? What is your strategy?
So
that you're willing to share with the whole world.
I don't mean it from, like how you were gonna, but like what is it that you want? What's
your goal? Right.
Okay.
Well, that's a great question. Thank you.
Well, I'm looking for more museum shows.
Okay, wonderful.
And also opportunities to engage in like critical discourse and discussion about, the things that we're dealing with, social political ideas, how social messages interfere with how men and women relate to each other, and how we can work to build a better world. So a lot of it is looking at what type of audience that venue attracts,
right,
and whether or not my work is going to be able to engage that audience.
Okay, so yeah, so Perez Museum is good. They do a lot of like work like that has that kind of political message.
Yes,
yeah.
ICA has been doing some stuff with conversations and stuff on the weekends too.
Okay,
and
great.
events and stuff. So there, but mostly, I would like to be shown more often in New York.
In New York,
more often
in New York. Yeah, and that's, it's probably like one of the epicenters of art for probably the world, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And do you have like work that, I've actually seen your work that has like these women and has
the targets.
And it's hard to talk about it without seeing it, but that's something that's a recurring theme for you in terms of as you share art regarding women.
It's part of like the work that like what I'm addressing. So I start from my personal experiences, and then I look to culture and say, okay, how does this experience? Why is it that I experienced this thing, and where did it start? So a recent example was a few years ago, and I was parked outside the studio, and I was like parked at the very closest spot near the studio door. And I get out of my car and I walk into the door, and like not even 20 feet, and I don't even get to the studio door without a guy walking past me and saying, "Nice nipples," and then walking past. Yes. Like didn't even like turn his head, no nothing. Like who says
nipples,
that?
That's too much.
Who says that for one? And why do you think it's okay? So he thought it was okay. So what is it that's in our environment and our culture? It's
that
not
makes him feel that he can say that
entitled,
right.
empowered to do that.
Right.
And it's not a manners thing. It's not
No.
how they're grown up. It's
Yeah.
not that. Because we all know that the culture is more powerful than parenting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So you did work. That piece that you did with the women, bodies, and targets,
The targets
centered
is-
around like those kind of
It's,
things.
yeah, it's about
Right.
catcalling, street harassment, that type of thing. Mhm.
Yeah. We're having, there's some comments and commentary regarding your hair. So Tabitha, hey Tabitha, thanks for joining. Thank you everybody. This is Keisha. And David's agreeing your hair is great. So
Thank you.
I love that you do so many different things with your hair.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have the most versatile hair
We
texture
do.
in the
We
world,
do.
so why
we do.
not?
You know, it's something that it's interesting because I don't really talk about hair that much, but I think this is a black person, especially a black woman, hair is important. And when people, I feel like sometimes when people just don't, exactly what you said, don't really even notice or think about it, like we can have our hair in braids, dreads, cut low, twisted, like very easily straightened our hair, all these things, like we have the most versatile hair, but there is this concept that maybe straight hair is the best hair and we want that hair, but it's like, well, no, we actually can do so much more with this hair.
Yeah.
And then we're the only race that has this hair. Like everybody else has like more straighter hair, and then we have this, like we're the most unique in that. So you get to do all this dynamic thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right, so I love it. Yeah.
There's a creativity coming out of our being.
Look at that. So look, so you're able to do this yourself?
Yeah, I did this myself. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, everybody's saying here they like it. So yeah, it's great. So we're wrapping up. Let's see here. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Oh, I see Angela, my best friend in New York, there as well. Hey, Ange. She's gonna come down from the Art Woman. She was at one of these in the gallery here. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
So that's what.
2024.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Sounds like the
Oh,
future.
boy. Yeah.
Future.
I'll be in the future. Well, in 5 years, I can see myself living like full time as an artist.
Okay, wonderful. I want that
Working
for
and
you.
traveling.
Right. Let's see. What has been your journey as a woman of color in the gallery space? I like that
You
question.
know the answer to that question.
Yeah, this is from Maurice. Great question.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not just about the gallery space or just the art world. One thing that I know that there are several times where I'm like FOD, which stands for like first only different. So there's several spaces where I'm the only person that looks like me in this space. Like some of these events that I go to, I'm like, okay.
Yes,
And,
I relate.
yes. I'm the first person to do it, like, first generation American.
Okay.
Let's see, what else? First, I guess in my immediate family, first to go to college, but I was the oldest, so that's kind of like.
Okay, you're the oldest.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then being just different, like, again, being the only person in this space or thinking about this thing or talking about this. So in more than one realm in my life where I'm going to, this spot or that spot, I'm like, okay, I'm the only person that can talk about it. Like if I go.
So you're saying in this way, like this question relates to you being in so many spaces, not just the gallery
Yeah,
space.
it doesn't matter the space.
The
almost.
space. So, but does the gallery space have any greater impact? This is your field. There could be an advantage by being FOD.
Yeah.
There could be a disadvantage.
Yeah,
either way.
mean, it's again, you have to understand the structures in which you live in order to navigate in those spaces. So, the gallery space really doesn't. It's one thing to say, okay, yeah, I want my work shown here, and then it not get shown, or there's a whole lot of drama with the work being shown, which happened. Yeah, let me tell you that story.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I want to name the institution or not, but it was local.
Okay.
I was part of a group show, and they had clearly set out the guidelines that this is the work that you want to do, that you want to show. Just send us the image list, and this is what the contract is going to be, and what have you. And we all did it. And I didn't get back any approval for any of the works that we have an issue. So they're calling me like, oh, we have an issue with some of the work that you want to show. We don't want. Can you show us some of your portraits or something else? like they went onto my website and said, okay, we're going to pull this. I'm like, okay, well, you're going outside of your stated agreement about what
and
we're
they're censoring
do.
your work now.
Absolutely. And it turned out to be this whole back and forth via email. And I'm like, okay, well, again, according to your contract, you guys said you can make changes to the contract where there's signed addendum by both parties. I'm like, show me the addendum that we both signed. And we can continue this conversation. Otherwise, we're within these parameters. They weren't expecting that.
Okay.
Why? So
No
they were not expecting that. And they were like, okay, well, let's have a conversation. Let's have a meeting about this. And I'm like, okay, we can go ahead and sit down at the meeting. I do not. It's fine with me. So they said, okay, well, this is the work that we chose or what have you. We wanted these works. I'm like, okay, but those works aren't the ones that are available. And I showed you the ones that are available, but it's on the image list. You can't expect, like, oh, because I'm here, I'm going to have everything. Like, no.
Wow.
And, and then they started with the, oh, well, you can go show in this area or you can go down to Miami and show your work. And I'm like, I'm getting ready to go to London for a show that I'm in. So... Really? Who are you talking to?
Right.
So it's like, oh, okay, well, we can do it. I'm like, who are you talking to? Like, you want me here or not? Like, do you want to be part of, like, which part?
Or what happened at the end of that story? Like, did you end up showing work with them?
I ended up showing the work with
them. The work that you had originally said.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. Good for you. And then you said you got to show in London as well.
Yes, show in London, yeah.
So that's exciting. When you go somewhere, like, I'll speak and outside of Fort Lauderdale, and it's always something more grand. I think there's a phrase, something that they say, but when you travel somewhere else, that you're like, it's greater, right? Yeah. You are greater when you go there.
Yeah.
So like, I was in, let's say, San Francisco, and it's like, from Fort Lauderdale, people are like, you're coming from Fort Lauderdale? And it's like, yeah, Fort Lauderdale. It's just like, when I'm in Jamaica, it's like, from America. It's this whole thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely fun. When I went to the UK, I met up with family.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so.
I don't know if there's a Jamaican who doesn't have family in England. I don't know if is there any Jamaicans who do not have family in England? Please, let me know, because you have to have family in New York City and England, I think, no matter what. Yes. So Tabitha is saying, and Maurice is saying boss lady, and a lot of good messages, and Tabitha is saying, that's right, stand up. So I love that. I love that you stand up for who you are, and for what you believe in. And we're going to be wrapping up. I always end with queer conversation, closing questions.
Okay.
And it's just, ask a question and you answer pretty quickly. And thank you so much for being on the show. You're usually on that side. Thank you. You're usually watching the show and a part of the conversation, so it's good to have you on this side of the screen.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure for sure. And I'm excited that you're going to be at the Edge Art Show.
Me too.
I'm excited to have you be more part of the Art Woman. You've always been a part of it, but being this part, and I like how you said you've been consuming, which is nothing wrong. We need that, but you want to be giving from this side, and I really appreciate that. So, queer conversation, closing questions. What makes you laugh?
Everything.
No.
Gee.
Sometimes funny memes.
Memes. Okay. Okay. I like that. Yeah. I haven't heard that one. That's a very modern one.
Yeah.
Memes. It's the age we're in. Okay. Memes. What's inspiring to you?
Part of it is seeing change or knowing that change is possible is inspiring, and then knowing especially at that woman, you see here's another way to get to that same goal. Here's another person, going through it the same way. Inspiration.
That's
I think education. Education is a big part for me. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Reading.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. What's so great? Well, actually, let me go this way. What's sexy to you? I know you said you're boring.
Yeah.
So I don't know, when you're boring, what's sexy? Let's see. I'm cracking myself up. Sorry. I was like, what's sexy? I'm dying. David, don't look over here.
It's like a very superficial question.
You think so?
Yeah,
No, but
it comes. I mean, because it's
well,
it feels like very surface.
Oh no, but sexy could be extremely profound and deep. So sexy for someone superficial could be like, ooh, like I like breasts. So that could be considered superficial. Or I like high heels. But what if your answer was like, I like a deep intellectual conversation, or I like someone who cares about children, and that's sexy to you, you know, or something that's sexy, someone who reads. Is that superficial?
Well, sexy is like that word kind of like it says like turning somebody on to do something like you know. I
haven't had this reaction to the sexy question. I like this dialogue.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, well then that means it narrows the conversation to, okay, what makes these bodily functions happen next? Well, yeah. So like that type of stimulation is kind of like, okay, so now we're taking it down to like what's visual and then what visuals like.
Well, the thing about, I guess, is how you interpret sexy, because some people's sexy answer, but I love this though, thank you. Yeah, you're the only person who's pushed me on this question or challenged it in any way. But some people's answer on what sexy is the mind. A lot of people say intelligent people. Like some people say cleavage, sure, you know. Some people will say, you know, maybe something that someone wears, but a lot of people, maybe half of people say, oh, conversation. And I go, yeah. So it can be something that is beyond how we see somebody. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But I think like when we think of sexy, that it does come up sometimes, but it has to be something very visual. You know. But it doesn't have to be. Right. So I don't know. Do we bypass the sexy question, or do we push the do we come up with something else for you? So, but you're good. You're good. You're good.
I think questions oftentimes don't always come down to one. Most of the time, a lot of times I find that they can be split into two.
Of course, more. Yeah.
I'm thinking like, oh, from this angle, from that angle. And I'm thinking about it in different respects.
Well, even when I started, I think that I expected most people to say something physical. And most people, let's say 50% of people answer what sexy is not physical. It's someone making me laugh, or, you know, somebody who likes this particular thing. But it doesn't have to be like, generally, most people don't have necessarily how people present. You know, which is interesting. Yeah. So I'm gonna go with you don't find anybody sexy. Just teasing. Okay. So any more comments on the sexy? You don't have to. That's what I said.
I don't know. Like it's like, okay. There's I think experience. I think it's an experience. There's more to it. It can be like different.
Of course.
The word sounds so but like there's different data points that add up to like an equation. So it's, for me, it's not.
I'm gonna press it because I press the phone one back. Okay, that was Scam Likely, my most common caller. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that distracted me. So you identify as boring and you don't find anything sexy. But you're far from boring. Very far from boring. I'm just teasing. Okay, but I like your analysis. I do like it. So we won't beat sexy down anymore. Okay. So my last question is, what's so great about being an ally?
I guess the growth.
I like that.
You basically open up yourself to opportunity to grow and learn, and say, oh, okay, I've never done this. So what? Someone else did. Listen to them. Listen to their perspective, their story, and you might gain something from that.
And then I guess that was kind of my last question, but then that makes me feel like I want to ask something else. And the question is, as somebody who's an ally and Jamaican, do you ever, and just straight, right? Or boring, sorry. But do you ever get any kind of like backlash or anything from people in your community or people in your circle of like, why are you there? Or any challenges, or you feel like...
No, I qualify them.
Okay, good.
I qualify them.
I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nikki Lopez, there is a do not disturb function on the phone, so you don't get the ringing. LOL. Okay, so...
Well, she's talking about iOS. You got Android.
No, yeah. I think there might be something like that too. So anyway, Let me tell you, this has been a dynamic discussion, conversation, queer conversation. So happy to have you on.
Thank you.
So excited to have you on the show. Thank you everyone for joining. Thanks for the questions and the commentary. Join me next week, Tuesday, and every Tuesday, 6 p.m. EST, right here on Virgin TV. Bye.
Bye.